Netflix has more than 10,000 choices, new movies every week, new shows trending every day. And still, you press play on the same show, again and again and again. The Office for the 12th time, Friends again, Harry Potter for the 20th time. And someone always asks you, why don't you watch something new? But here's the real question no one asks. Why does your brain feel calmer when it already knows what's going to happen? This isn't laziness. This isn't boredom. And it's definitely not bad taste. This is psychology. We live in a world that constantly pushes new. New content, new episodes, new trends. Algorithms are designed to make you explore, scroll, and move forward. They want your attention on what's next. But some people ignore all of that. They already know the ending. They already know the jokes. They already know every scene. And still, they press play. Before judging them, understand this. Rewatching is not about being stuck. It's about giving your brain exactly what it needs in that moment. Psychologists have found that people who rewatch the same shows usually fall into a few mental patterns, and once you understand them, you'll stop feeling guilty about going back to the same screen. For some people, life feels unpredictable. Work pressure, financial stress, relationship confusion, constant change. Their brain stays in survival mode most of the day. When life feels chaotic, the mind starts searching for something stable, something familiar, something it can control. This is called predictability bias. When you rewatch a show, nothing surprises you. You know how the episode ends. You know the character survives. You know the conflict gets resolved. That certainty creates emotional safety. For these people, rewatching isn't about the story anymore. It's about the feeling, the same voices, the same music, the same rhythm. In a world that feels loud and uncertain, familiar content feels like a warm, quiet room. Pressing play feels like coming home after a long, exhausting day. That's why people say, this show feels like home, because for their nervous system it is. For others, the reason is different. Some people are not emotionally overwhelmed. They're mentally exhausted. Their jobs demand constant thinking, decision-making, problem-solving. By the end of the day, their brain battery is empty. Watching something new requires effort. You have to learn new characters, follow new plots, stay focused. That's work. But rewatching doesn't demand anything. Psychologists call this cognitive load reduction. The brain has limited energy, and familiar content doesn't drain it. You don't need to pay attention. You don't need to analyze. You don't need to remember details. Your brain can just exist. This is why people play the same show while eating, resting, or falling asleep. It's not because it's boring. It's because it feels safe enough to let the mind relax. For these people, rewatching is mental rest. Not stimulation, recovery. Then there are people whose reason goes even deeper. For them, rewatching has nothing to do with the show itself. It's about the memory attached to it. Maybe they watched it during a happier time. Maybe they watched it with someone they miss. Maybe it reminds them of a version of life that felt simpler. Psychologists call this emotional time travel. The brain doesn't just remember facts, it remembers feelings. A familiar show becomes a doorway to the past. Every episode takes them back to who they were when they first watched it. That's why people cry during scenes they've already seen many times. It's not the scene that hurts. It's the memory, the room they were in, the person beside them, the way life felt back then. The show never changed, but they did. Rewatching lets them reconnect with a version of themselves they don't want to forget. Letting go of that show feels like letting go of that version of life. So they return, again and again, not to remember the story, but to remember themselves. And then there's another group of people who rewatch for a completely different reason. They don't rewatch because they are tired or emotional. They rewatch because they are curious. They believe stories have layers, hidden jokes, small details, background moments, foreshadowing you missed the first time. Their brain loves patterns and connections. Psychologists link this to high openness and analytical thinking. The first watch is for the story. The second watch is for understanding. The third watch is for discovery. Every time they rewatch, they notice something new. A look between characters. A line that suddenly means more. A small detail that changes everything. For them, rewatching isn't repetition. It's exploration. The show becomes a world, not just a story, and they want to see every part of it. Here's the most important thing. All these people have one thing in common. They are not avoiding growth. They are not stuck in the past. They are responding to what their mind needs. Some people need emotional safety. Some need mental rest. Some need connection to their past. Some need deeper understanding. None of these needs are wrong. In a culture obsessed with novelty, people who rewatch have learned something important. Sometimes what heals you is not something new. It's something familiar. So ask yourself this: does watching something new really make you more interesting? Or does knowing what brings you comfort make you more self-aware? Maybe people who rewatch aren't behind in life. Maybe they're just more honest with themselves. They know what calms them. They know what grounds them. They know what brings them peace. And that's not weakness, that's emotional intelligence. So which one are you? Do you rewatch because it makes you feel safe? Because it helps your brain rest? Because it reminds you of who you used to be? Or because you love discovering new details every time? Comment below and tell me what your comfort show or movie is. And the next time someone asks you why you're watching the same thing again, you'll know the answer. Because now, you understand your mind.